All right, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Jets Flight Path. I'm Brian. Joining me, as always, is Paul. Going right into it, Jamal Adams still,
Oh, surprise, surprise.
still can't stop talking about his former team. A team that drafted him in the first round, number 6 overall. I was there the night at the Jets draft party at MetLife Stadium with our other friend, Nick Succi, and just ecstatic. Even though it wasn't a quarterback at the time, we felt that as Jet fans, we got a great player. Jamal Adams, talk the talk, and he backed it up. First few years with the Jets, he talked about wanting to establish the Jets as a destination. Like he wants to be a quote unquote Jet for life. He's all in, blah blah blah. He helped recruit Le'Veon Bell to the Jets and possibly as well C.J. Mosley. But then he gets salty because other fans of other teams say that he plays for the little brother of New York. He doesn't like the fact that the general manager, Joe Douglas, in 2019, did his job by picking up the phone when other teams called and didn't hang up immediately like a dumbass when asked about his availability in a potential trade, comparing himself to Tom Brady and Aaron Donald. Um, and the Jets, we all know what led up after that. He was, combative with coaches, throwing his teammates under the bus, saying that he's claiming that he's the only one doing the most, blah, blah, blah. Obviously, that hasn't sit well with his former teammates since then, and just throwing fans under the bus. The fans immediately supported Adams, loved Jamal Adams. I was one of them. I really liked him. But then you see, it was all about him. And then eventually, he kind of forced his way out of town with his antics, and the Jets swindled the Seattle Seahawks out of multiple first-round picks plus. Since then, this past season, Jamal Adams had a subpar year by his standards, by any standards, with Seattle, was often injured and whatnot. And the Jets could potentially turn those first-round picks from Adams into Deshaun Watson or just other quality players under the new regime. Now, since then, Jamal Adams cannot help himself but take pot shots at the Jets, in terms of when the Seahawks made the playoffs, he's like, I'm not used to this feeling. No, okay. That's fine. All love. It's all fine. But since then, and most recently, you sent me this video, actually, Paul, from the Adam Lefke show. Don't know who this guy is from
He's
Bleacher Report.
he's a contributor from Bleacher Report, and the vibe I got from it was he's trying to play like a edgy radio host, like trying to connect with people
Like a
because
Jim Rome or a
right,
Colin
right, right,
Cowherd.
right,
Yeah.
right, right, very poorly, but go
hmm
on.
Well, yeah, he just asks a question about the flimsy fans, and obviously he's implying Jets fans.
Jet fans, right?
Yeah, there's no other fans. First off, if you're an NFL player, fans, even your own fans getting on you, should not bother you. You should have thick enough skin by being a multimillionaire and being that talented to play in the National Football League to not let it bother you, to not let a girl who's a Giants fan be like, you play for the little brother. I felt insulted. You're stupid. You're just dumb. But in this case, flimsy Jet fans back Jamal Adams 100%. They were all for, let's extend this guy, even though he's a safety, he's the face of the franchise, he's our star, we can't let him go, blah, 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 blah. And he forced his way out. And he constantly, and he's throwing the fans under the bus. Oh, they love me one second, then they hate me the next. Because how you acted, like a prima donna, like a drama queen. There's no, his play up until this past year with Seattle, all these previous years with the Jets, Jamal Adams was great. Pro Bowler. He was a great safety with the Jets. But just, his mouth, his antics, it forced his way out. And he's salty over the fact because I guess he can read the tea leaves and see, well, maybe the Seahawks. That would be hilarious. I hope the Seahawks trade Russell Wilson and sign him to. Maybe he won't sign for a long-term deal, because that's also the thing. Like he claims, I want to be a Seahawk for life. Yeah, okay, we'll see. But it's just amazing. He can't stop. He's like a jaded ex-girlfriend. I said this on a previous episode. Like, what was it, 2, 3 weeks ago? Jamal Adams was in the news again talking on the Jets. Like, Jet fans have moved on. The only time Jet fans have talked like with this is like clowning on the show host. Nobody cares. Nobody cares how Jamal Adams feels about the Jets organization or the fans or anything. We moved on. As Jet fans, we're looking forward to the future. We're looking forward to the regime of Douglas and Saleh and who the next quarterback will be and how this team will come together, minus Jamal Adams. We're fine with Marcus May and Ashton Davis and whoever else back there in 2021. That's what I have to say with that, Paul. If you want to go ahead.
I think that was the most fired up I've ever heard you on the show so far.
I'm so tired of hearing about this
I
guy
know.
who's not on this team.
I know it, and it. I watched this video and it was just like, yeah, they love me one day and the next day you were the first, at first you were the greatest thing ever, and they had, and then you leave and it's like, all right, yeah, you're trash, like, all right, cool, like, I'll see how it is, like, I'll know how it is now, like, dude, you forced your way out.
Right.
This is not a Deshaun Watson type thing where even Texans fans are like, yeah, he's got, like, honestly, dude, go. Like, the organization did not actively make themselves worse while you were there. Like, if
Mm-hmm.
anything, you were a cornerstone piece of our supposed defense. You, Marcus May, Quentin Williams, you guys were the
Fans didn't want him
the
traded. And it wasn't only
yeah,
until
I
after the
know.
fact when we all realized, oh my God, they got 2 first-round picks for a
Yeah,
safety, like
yeah.
and a third-round pick, and what's McDougal, but
Yeah. And they got
like
a
that,
third too.
yeah. So and that's the key point that you bring up is like, oh, only after I'm gone. Jet fans are really loyal. Like even when you go to another team, if you've put in your work, like what comes to mind immediately because I saw a video earlier of like a old throwback highlight is Jericho Cotchery. Cotchery
Oh
was
my god,
beloved
yeah.
by Jet fans, still beloved, one of the most underappreciated receivers in a long time. And even when he went to Pittsburgh and Carolina, I rooted for him, like individually. Like you root for guys like that who are loyal and stuff. And unfortunately, it didn't end the way as Jet fans you wanted to see it end. Like it's still, it boggles my mind that he doesn't understand that his own actions led to him being traded by literally numerous screenshots of
Absolutely.
deleted tweets and Instagram posts and stuff
Absolutely.
like that of just thrashing Jet fans, of claiming like he's the only one. How does it look to your teammates where I'm the only one putting effort? Like your teammates are putting in the effort as well.
Yeah.
All right, it just doesn't come together because maybe the other side of the ball isn't, up to snuff on a particular day or something.
Right.
It's a team effort, but
I agree.
it's about him. It's always about him, and he's just salty because again, I feel that he's seeing the tide turn a bit. I'm sure the Seahawks are going to be just fine under Pete Carroll. He's a top 10 coach, borderline maybe top 5. You could argue, coach in the league. Seattle's always competitive as long as they have Russell Wilson.
Right.
But the Jets are on the come up, and he's not going to be a part of that. He's not in the New York scene anymore, and he's salty. He's like I said, he's upset.
Well, and to finish up, yeah, he everything that he harps on Jet fans, like, oh, they turn their backs on me. Yes, because of how you went about your business. If you went
Mm-hmm.
about your business and said, listen, I don't get me wrong. Nobody wanted the Adam Gase deal. And Adam Gase was I completely understand Adam Gase because it seems like nobody on the team liked Adam Gase.
Right.
But Joe Douglas wasn't active, like, oh, by the way, we traded Marcus May. Oh yeah, by the way, we just traded Sam Darnold. Oh yeah, we just brought in the sixth round kid to play wide receiver. Like, Joe Douglas was not actively sabotaging his team. It takes, I should say, a little bit of effort and a little bit of time to build together that championship caliber team. Um,
Takes
so there was
patience.
exactly, and the fact that he felt slighted by Joe Douglas for doing his job. Like,
For
my boss tells
for not actively shop. He wasn't actively shopping. He literally picked up the phone. Yeah,
yeah,
is Jamal Adams available? That depends. What are you offering? This. Nope. That
yeah,
was it at
like
that
that was
point.
it. Yeah, and then and just the way to go about it, throwing your teammates under the bus, throwing your head coach. Granted, again, Adam Gase,
Right.
I think he's worse than Kotite, but to go team up with the worst fucking beat writer in New York and put out a hit piece and talk about your
Hmm.
struggle, like what do you think fans are gonna do? Like, oh yeah, Jamal Adams just fucking threw my
Why?
head coach under the bus. He threw a team under the bus. He just called us a bunch of racists because he said that Jet fans would hurl racist things at him. Bro, get the fuck out of
Why?
here.
Yeah.
Like
Why
you're
would
done.
you think? Why would you think overwhelmingly people would support you, the player, versus the organization? It's not like a situation where like Trent Williams with Washington a few years ago, where like he had that what was it, a heart condition or a brain condition or something that the
Right.
doctors misdiagnosed and everything, and even Washington fans were like, yeah, the organization did you wrong, or like with Houston, like a lot of Texan fans are like. Just let Watson succeed somewhere else because it's a dumpster
Yeah.
fire right now. Like,
Well, and you look at former teammates of Jamal Adams who were on the team at the time, and like everything that was coming out, like, oh, he got traded, and like no one really had anything nice to say about it.
no, no one was like, "Good luck,
It was
bro."
very telling, and we're never gonna know what was said behind closed doors, or how much worse he was behind closed doors, because that's obviously
Well,
a
we know
locker
with the
room thing.
Le'Veon Bell, like he was posting like
Yeah,
the text and everything. It was like, wow, really, bro? Like you're gonna dip like that when you were telling me to come here to build
yeah,
something and everything.
yeah.
It's and
It's
Le'Veon Bell too. It's like it didn't work out because of course Gase he doesn't know
right.
how to utilize players. But there's no as a Jet fan, there's
There's
no
no
love
ill
lost
will.
towards there's
It
nothing
was
towards Le'Veon Bell.
he was a consummate professional his entire time was here, and
Yes.
Jet fans every week. Oh my God, can you believe Adam Gase was fucking throwing him behind this, and he's not using him as a pass
Can you believe
catcher?
he ran Frank Gore 20 times more than
Yeah,
he did Bell? Like,
yeah, like Jet fans were happy to see him go to the Chiefs, and
mhm.
happy. I don't think you
Same
could
to Steve
find.
McClendon going, and now he
Yeah,
got a ring with
like
Tampa Bay. Good for him. Avery
there's no ill
Williamson with
will.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
It doesn't, and sometimes it doesn't work out. Even if a guy isn't like that good, like it, but he like if he conducts himself as a professional or everything,
right.
there's this respect there, and it's like understand. It's like it doesn't work out. It
No,
happens in other sports as well. I mean, most telling to me, like that, it comes to my mind. I would say would be like the New York Yankees when they had AJ Burnett. I mean, granted, he helped win them a World Series, but it didn't really work out near the end there.
right.
It just happened, and they mutually parted ways. He ran the course of his contract, and then that was it. But there's nothing like Jet fans are some of the most loyal fans in the league to have to suffer through the amount of crap that they've had for the past 10 years. This has been, if you look at the history of Jets football, it's not a whole lot of great stuff, but it's just these past 10 years have been so abysmal. And Jamal
Yeah,
Adams was that initial shining light, like maybe we have something here. And they
right.
did. But then, like, again, he got, I guess, other people getting in his ear or something. He got gassed up and wanted his way out. And he got his way out. But the only reason he's still harping on the Jets, again, I'm reiterating here, but I 100% believe that he sees what's developing. The Jets made a arguably the best hire of the offseason in Coach Robert Saleh. They have a ton of cap to spend in the offseason to probably get maybe Joe Thuney, Allen Robinson. We've said that previously. They have the draft picks thanks to him.
Yeah,
And Seattle's languishing. Like the Rams, they just got traded for Matt Stafford. They upgraded a quarterback. They still have one of the best defenses in the league. The Cardinals are only getting better. And the Niners are certainly going to bounce back. So Seattle, that's really the toughest division in football. Whereas now, there's no more Brady in the AFC East.
yeah, yeah.
It's, with Buffalo's kind of running things right now, but it wouldn't be too shocking.
One
Like,
great
let's say,
off season. That's all
yeah,
it takes.
one great offseason, the Jets could be like right up there, and Jamal
Yeah,
Adams is not a part of it. And I think it's just pure salt at this point.
Well, that's all it is. Because, like you
I
said,
don't want to talk about this player anymore.
no, it's just, but it's like every week it's something else now. Like, it's all love. Like, do your
It's
thing,
all
brother.
love, bro.
Like, it is what it is. Like, okay, you don't want to be a Jet. You do what you did. Okay, we're fucking, like, we're done. Like, it's over. See ya. Like, all right, we're gonna use your draft capital, draft a new quarterback or Deshaun Watson or whatever. So,
And
like,
that's the thing too. Like
have a great
when
career.
the Jets will trade Sam Darnold, Sam Darnold will not be. I will be shocked, and we will get that shortly. But there's no ill will to Sam Darnold.
No,
Not at
not
all.
at all.
Like I hope for he succeeds elsewhere.
Yeah,
Why would
me
like
too.
what has he done? What has he done to like? Did he throw his teammates under the bus? No. Did he
No.
thrash fans? No. Did he go like you say to like the scummiest beat reporter in all of football to create a hit piece on the organization? No. It's not like the team was in the wrong in this situation.
Right.
Could be farther from the truth. It's pure ego, and let's talk about something else because we'll
Yeah.
just spend the entire episode on this.
I mean, there's nothing else to say other than
Yeah.
you summed it up very nicely, and a lot of fire in that first segment there. I like it.
I'm
A lot of
just
things, a sign of good things to come.
yeah, I'm just tired of Jamal Adams. You know what it is too? I'm so tired of pissing away money on like players' jerseys, and Adams was like one of the
Yeah.
last ones of like
Yeah.
the old jerseys that they had that I really liked, and now I can't wear it anymore. It's in storage. It's useless to me, but whatever.
Well, I have two Sam Darnold jerseys.
Oh,
I have the one before they upgraded, and then I was at the
yeah,
Crossings. I
with
think
you, yeah, I got one as well.
yeah, it was like $20. I was like, okay, yeah, this is like last season.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the black Jamal Adams jersey. So it's like
Oh
those
wow.
three are useless. So then I fucking went on NFL Shop and I bought me a Mitchell and Ness Joe Namath stitch for like
There you go.
$100.
At this point, and you know what? It should have been. We should have realized or been smarter before to just go with throwbacks because they're
Yeah,
timeless. You know, they're
Klecko and
already
Gastineau,
yeah. Like
Martin,
I have my
Pennington.
go-to is Mo Lewis. I got a Mo Lewis like one I got off of eBay for like
Yeah,
$25. That's very crisp, but yeah, I mean, it is what it is, and it's all love.
it's all love.
Yeah, moving on. The big news from this past week has been the Carson Wentz trade that finally went down, and it went down with the Indianapolis Colts. And the interesting thing about this trade is that the Colts are sending Philadelphia a third-round pick and a conditional second-round pick that would be turning into a first if Carson Wentz plays 70% of his snaps, which most likely will happen. And the Colts make the play. They're making the playoffs. If anybody can fix Carson Wentz in the NFL, it would be Frank Reich. Even though they lose Nick Sirianni, who's now inexplicably the Eagles head coach, one of the strangest hires in the past like 10 years in the NFL. I can't explain hiring that guy. I said it last week. Hiring this guy coming from Frank Reich because apparently you're keeping Wentz and getting rid of Peterson, but then just jettison Peterson and now you have Jalen Hurts and possibly the Eagles are also looking at Trey Lance. They seem to be a mess, but
yeah,
this deal, just breaking down the contract really quick, that Indy for the 21 season, Field Yates reported. Now, others have saying that the Colts aren't paying anything this year for 2021, but Field Yates is reporting a $25 million cap hit. 2022, it's $22 million. 2023, $25 million. And 2024, the final year of Wentz's contract would be $26 million against the cap for Indianapolis. Now, on a yearly basis, ever since the new regime over there, they've had plenty of cap. They seem kind of like the Jets in that
terrible.
regard. Yeah, well, yeah, but I kind of like it the same regard as with the Stafford Golf deal, where people were thrashing one side or the other. This was a swindle for them or them. It's like I think this is a fair deal for both teams. I think Eagles, it clears a bunch of cap. They get essentially a first and a third. And, Indy, you might possibly kind of solve your, quarterback position, maybe have some consistency now ever since Luck retired.
I'm going to disagree with you there. I think Philadelphia, this was such an L for them. I just
Hmm.
think this whole process was such an L.
But the trade
Indianapolis,
itself, in terms of value,
in terms of value,
I
if
mean,
they
what
can,
more
if
can
they
you
can,
expect?
if they can get a first out of this, it's great.
They did.
Um, if if he stays healthy. Now, Wentz has had
Yeah,
injury problems. 70% of the snaps, you're thinking, okay, he's got to play what, like 14 games, 13 games,
13, 14.
something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Okay, so if he plays 13 games and he gets him to the playoffs, that's a first. So that's not bad, but you have to look at this. Well, they just wasted a second on Jalen Hurts. It is looking more than
He's their
likely they're
guy.
going to. It's looking more than likely that they're going to be taking a quarterback at 6. They have 33 million in dead cap this year, which is gonna hurt their ability to sign free agents or start the rebuild.
They just
They
cut
just
Deshaun
lost.
Jackson today.
They Yeah, so they lost him. They just fired their Super Bowl winning head coach, and then 2 3 weeks later. 4 weeks later, they go ahead and trade their franchise quarterback, and they're an absolute fucking mess, and they're going to be in the bottom of the basement of the NFC. Not just the NFC East, but the
Really.
NFC. I think so for at least another 2 3 years. Because Howie Roseman's fucking terrible, dude. He's an awful GM.
But
And
here's
and
the
and
thing: in our lifetime, Paul, ever since the Eagles drafted McNabb in 98, 99,
mhm.
they have been one of, like, I would say, the Eagles up with the Ravens, the Steelers, the Patriots. Trying to think.
reason is the reason why those Eagle teams succeeded the way they did.
But
Now,
they've been
granted,
successful for the past like 20, 25 years. Not
Andy
like
Reid was a
they would have, yeah, like when Chip Kelly was there, they would have a year where 7-9 everything, and then okay, right away back to like 11-5, 12-4. Like they're never consistently bad, is what I'm
I
saying. I can't envision the Eagles being consistent because they have talent like on both sides of the ball. Like they have Fletcher Cox still there, like who's one of the best defensive players in the league. On offense, like sure they have an elder, Alshon Jeffrey who they may actually cap dump, but they have some talent. Like overall, they like I don't know. It all comes down to how good of a coach is Nick Sirianni or whatever.
Right. Well, and that then and I think a large portion of their success over the past a past decade or 2 decades was Andy Reid. There was a time when the Eagles made 4 straight NFC title games.
Mhm.
They made it to a Super Bowl and ultimately lost against Philadelphia. But Andy Reid and what he was able to do with McNabb, and they had Brian Westbrook back there, and they had a young fucking uh, Jason Peters as their left tackle. They were looking pretty unstoppable for the most part. Unfortunately, those Eagles teams just ultimately choked and crashed and whatever. But really, since Andy Reid left in what
But they won a Super
2010,
Bowl since he left. They were first
since
Super Bowl in the league in
well, let
their
me
history.
explain. Since he left in 2010, outside of that fluke Super Bowl, and it really
Oh,
was a
come
fluke
on.
Super. No, dude, it was. There's absolutely no way that fucking if you put that matchup against in a simulator 10 out of 10 times, New
But they
England
what
wins
you
that.
can't
New
be
England
on
wins that.
hypotheticals.
No, I'm just saying that Nick Foles played the game of his fucking life,
He had a playoff,
and
the whole playoffs. They
yeah,
destroyed the Vikings
I'm
in that
saying
championship game.
I'm talking about Super Bowl as a whole. He played the game of his fucking life, and I would he be able to replicate it another 9 times? I don't know, but you look at what the Eagles have done after that Super Bowl, and it's just they've just come back down, crashed back down to reality. Like it's been abysmal in
Because
my
they went with
opinion.
Wentz, and Wentz is not recovered since that injury because he was playing that year that they went to the Super Bowl like an MVP. Tore his ACL, Foles
and
took
that was
over
it. Right.
and rode high. Like we've only seen like just this past year when you have a significant injury for a quarterback, it takes some time to recover. Marcus Mariota has yet to recover from his injury when he broke his leg in 2015, I believe. Derek Carr, like I said, this past year, has finally shown like flashes of his former self when he was in conversation of being an MVP. Carson Wentz has gotten injured more and more and more, like each year, and it's just a part of that has to do with Howie Roseman and his construction of the team, the offensive line. Like I feel like for the past 10 years with the Eagles O line, it's always a big sticking point with them. Like somebody's hurt, they never are at full strength, and obviously that hurts. But with Wentz, like you did play really well in your second year, almost at MVP level. When is enough enough? Like, I feel he has the most excuses in the league more than any other quarterback going for him. Nobody makes these like excuses for Cam Newton, but they do for Carson Wentz. And
Oh,
it just,
I'm not making any excuses for Carson Wentz. I think he's fucking garbage.
no.
I think him and Goff in that draft, they were just, I mean, yeah, they were two of the best quarterbacks available, but Carson Wentz had his great year, his year and a half, and then he's been last in the league, or one of the bottom
Hmm.
third in the league as far as quarterback rating goes, interception to touchdown ratio, or I'm sorry, touchdown to interception ratio. And you look at this past season. Now, granted, the offensive line was pretty rough, but he's making his reads and he's going through his progressions, and he looks uncomfortable. He's throwing off of his back foot. He's making all these weird throws that ultimately got him into trouble and
Yeah.
eventually benched in favor of Jalen Hurts. So I think him going to Indianapolis is going to be the final straw. He's going to reconnect with Frank Reich. And if he still struggles in Indianapolis, I think you're going to start to see like, oh, okay, well, maybe it wasn't as good as we hyped him up to be, or
He's
as
got
he
a better
was.
arm than, Rivers, but like, I mean,
I just,
comparatively, it's how much
I
of an
just,
upgrade?
that's the thing. I don't, I
I think it's enough for them to be a playoff team. Not win the division, but be one of the wild cards. I think so.
Philadelphia.
No, Indianapolis
Oh,
wants it.
Indianapolis.
Philly's going to be,
Uh,
I think, probably third in the division. I think the Giants are
well,
just
I mean,
terrible.
who
You know,
look at the AFC South. It's Indianapolis, Tennessee,
Tennessee runs
are
it.
really going to be. Yeah, I mean, they're going to be the two mano a mano,
Yeah,
and
Houston's done.
Te-
Jacksonville's.
Tennessee looked very vulnerable this year. I still think they're a
eh,
top team in the South, but
They got to beef up their defense. Their defense was
yes,
bad compared to last year when they went
but
on the run.
I don't like what the Colts have been doing over the past few years, where they're just throwing in
Really?
fucking patches and like,
Mm.
here's some duct tape over the quarterback position. It's either you fucking
Oh,
draft
okay.
a quarterback or you sign one in free agency. You just don't fucking go from Jacoby Brissett to a year of Philip Rivers, and now you're drafting in the mid-20s and like, oh shit, and now we got to go get Carson Wentz because we fucked their draft position up. Like I just, this has the potential to backfire in Indianapolis' face heavy, as
It could,
well
because you know what?
as
They could have just
Philadelphia.
traded a first
You know,
probably for Darnold and just pulled that trigger. And
right?
honestly, at this point, would you want Wentz in his contract and the uncertainty, or Darnold and the potential?
Well, and that's the thing. They're taking on such a big contract, as opposed to Donald's final rookie year, or final year on his rookie deal, and essentially, where's Indianapolis drafting? Like 25th, right?
Something
25th,
like that.
26th. It's essentially a second round pick at that point. I would have, in my personal opinion, I would have just shot it over to the Jets for a first for Darnold. You see what you got in Darnold, and then you give him a bridge deal, and you develop him there, and maybe you have your franchise QB
Yeah,
in Sam Darnold, and the kid's only 24 years old,
yeah. I mean,
so
I mean, we'll see. If you're a Colts fan, if you're Joe, you better hope and pray that this works out. I mean, I think it will for at least this year. Like I said, I think being that the AFC is still the weaker conference, it's the Chiefs conference, and then you go from there. But I think Indy has an excellent shot to be one of the three wild card teams. They did, this past year, so I don't see, a major
Yeah,
fall off there.
they're in a good position to stay as a wild card team, and
Yeah.
they are drafting 21st overall. So okay, maybe you give the Jets a first for Darnold and like a fourth or something, and then bam, you're okay.
For
But
Philly
that's just
though,
me from.
I don't think Philly is going to be, like I said, in my opinion, like long term miserable. But I think this year maybe will definitely be a bad year. I think
We'll see.
at best, 8-8
I
at
mean,
best. Yeah, he's
Howie
not good,
Roseman's fucking drafting has been abysmal as of late.
no.
So who knows? We'll see.
and because they let Joe Douglas go. But hey, we're
Hey,
happy with
whatever.
that.
Yeah.
We're not complaining. But yeah, with this Wentz deal, I don't think it impacts a whole lot because he essentially, a second and a third, second that can turn into a first. I don't think it really has a whole lot of impact on other potential quarterback moves, concerning maybe Darnold or Bridgewater or say Trubisky, which if any domino is going to fall next, it should be Trubisky. The Bears need to do something.
Yes.
But I think in reality, the next domino to fall within probably the next 2 weeks would be moving Sam Darnold. I think at this point, teams may be desperate, and there's plenty of teams out there for a quarterback who aren't going to get, the one or two of Lawrence and Wilson or Fields, 1, 2, 3 there. So I think it's very realistic the Jets will be adding a third first round pick in this year's draft.
I think going back to Chicago, they're so they got Nick Foles, who he sucks outside of Philadelphia, and Trubinsky's just been an absolute bust when they could have had
Yeah,
Deshaun Watson or
Pat
Patrick
Mahomes.
Mahomes. It's like they moved up in the draft to
I
draft
feel
him
like that's
second
worse than the
overall. Like,
'83 draft. Like the Jets, they got Ken O'Brien, who's a very competent quarterback. He was no, John Elway or Jim Kelly or Dan Marino, but he held his own. Trubisky's just been awful, whereas
yeah,
Watson and Mahomes have been like just top of the league.
superstars.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
just bad.
I think Chicago. I think Chicago. It'll be a dark horse in the Darnold sweepstakes. I can see right now, Washington needs a quarterback. I think Alex Smith is going to.
I
I
think
think
he'll
he'll
stay around.
retire.
You think he'll
Uh,
retire at this point?
I don't think he's got much health to prove. I think he just wanted to come back.
You don't think he could be
Uh,
as a backup?
I think he could be as a backup, but
Yeah,
I mean, the guy just went through fucking life-changing leg surgery, 18 surgeries, could have died. I
but he
think
came back.
he came back to prove to people he could still do it. Hey, I may be wrong. He might still play. Who knows? Washington might cut him. Maybe
Hmm.
he's a backup for
Well, they did
a
sign
contending team.
what's his face to a 2 year or
Hensky,
3 years ago. Yeah,
2 year
Taylor Heineke.
Haneke, 2 year $8 million deal. So there's a young quarterback there, and maybe they do go after a Darnold, who okay, we'll give you a first, and they'll battle it out in camp. Ron Rivera is he's a veteran coach. He knows how to get the best out of players, and
Hmm.
that might be a good fit in Washington. Same thing with Chicago. Matt Aggie. He's the supposed offensive guru, but how much can you really do with
But
Mitch Trubisky?
the thing is, they're in a tough position. Like
Yeah,
they should have been the ones to pull the deal on the ones. I mean, uh, trade because now you're just stuck. Like who is going to trade for Foles in his contract,
right.
and two, like who's really going to trade for Trubisky? Even teams who need a quarterback, they'd probably just roll the dice on maybe if they're a team in need of a quarterback in the mid like first round or even later, take their chance with a Mac Jones or a Trey Lance or somebody like that, or in free agency. Like I don't know. If I was a team, like the Jets are in a nice spot because they could have their choice of, say, Wilson or Watson at this stage.
Right.
But if you're a different team, like, would you rather have Mitch Trubisky or Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year? That's the type of question you got to ask. Like, Trubisky, what is his value at this point? Final year of his contract. So Chicago's, I think they're kind of screwed. But I do like your idea of Washington. I think that is the perfect fit for Darnold. Well, maybe the perfect fit would probably be back home on the West Coast, maybe say for
Right.
San
And
Francisco.
and
But
and that's not to say that a team like New Orleans might not just be like, all right, we got Jameis Winston,
they
maybe
got to
we'll get
figure out
Darnold.
Breeze
Yeah,
at what's going on.
I don't know. I think maybe Darnold sits behind fucking Breeze for a year, and I don't know. I mean, it doesn't make much sense because of the contract situation,
Right.
but again, the 49ers are the same thing. Do they go with Garoppolo? Do they go get Darnold? Like it's
I
this
said it like,
offseason is going to be very, very good for the Jets Flight Path podcast because it's going to be a lot to talk about.
oh, definitely. It already has been. I mean, with the
Yeah.
moves already, like it's unprecedented at this point, which is quarterback moves, and still more expected to come.
Right.
Like that is a point. Like I've said previously, it makes all the sense in the world for the Niners to just say, listen, let's get rid of this contract. Let's trade Garoppolo back to New England for whatever, a third, a fourth, who cares, and then go get Darnold, who's younger. He's more versatile on mobile, definitely, than Garoppolo. And Kyle Shanahan could definitely work with Darnold. And Garoppolo's back to New England, and the Patriots are back, and the Bills' 1 year of reign of terror is over just like that. And Belichick is back, and the Pats are going 14-2. But uh, at this point, like I said, I think within the next 2 weeks, Darnold gets moved. I think to Washington, you as well. I think probably just for just one first. I think that's fair for like considering his age level, his age, his talent level, the contract, because they could still pick up the 5th year option on Darnold. So to me, I think that makes the most sense for going to Washington. Now, with Darnold's stuff out of the way, the Watson rumors are heating back up. And for whatever reason, the past 2-3 days, Jets Twitter has been just on fire with the Watson takes. This one guy who I guess he predicted or has quote unquote sources on other sports concerning
sources
concerning the Knicks and the Yankees. Apparently, he said that the Yankees would land Trevor Bauer. They did. Blah blah blah. He doesn't have many followers. He's at Wesley_Knicks. His name is Wesley Hughes. He says the Jets are preparing an offer to the Texans for star quarterback Deshaun Watson. I'm told the Jets offer includes 4 first-round picks, 2/3, and a player. The Jets have finished their quarterback evaluation process and are ready to make a run at their top target. I don't believe that for a second. Joe Douglas is a man who understands value of picks. There's no way in hell, not only the Jets, but any NFL team at this juncture where the Houston Texans have zero leverage would trade 4 first-round picks for Deshaun Watson. Is he worth 4 first-round picks? Sure. But the thing is, the Jets have number 2 overall, and honestly, that's worth, I would say, 2 firsts in the wrong. And I'm sorry, Paul, let me just continue with the other sources.
No, do your thing.
We have another source at Jets Island IG, goes by the name Hen, on Twitter.com. Sources info. Texans are still unwilling to. This is the best time of year because it's just all horseshit. Sometimes they were like, I don't. Last year it was like Carl 2 years ago on Jets Twitter talking about stuff. But he goes on to say, Texans are still unwilling to trade Watson. However, the Jets have prepared an offer, and the Texans didn't slam the phone down on them. I wonder if I should tell you guys what said offer is. Okay. He goes on to say, the details I know of said offer. Jets send 3 firsts, all in the next 2 years, over to Houston. They send a third, unclear when, as well as an interior defensive lineman not named Quinnen Williams. And then the Texans send Watson. Sources cites pick readiness to be appealing. Texans want a quick turnaround. I don't spread fake news.
Right.
Sure. Now we, couple that with an actual source, the Houston Texans senior beat writer, one of the more respected beat writers around the league, John McClain, who initially said that the Texans aren't moving Watson, blah, blah, blah. And in recent weeks, I think we mentioned about 2 episodes ago, maybe 3 episodes, where the Texans, if they were to trade Watson to anybody, it would be the Jets. Well, right. He said on radio earlier on the Texans what they would want in return for Deshaun Watson. He quotes, or I quote, they, the Texans, don't want the 8th pick, Denver, the 9th pick, Carolina, or the 12th pick, San Francisco. They don't want Garoppolo, Bridgewater, or Locke. They want the opportunity to pick the second best quarterback in the draft. Well, who has the second overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft? None other than the New York Jets. And at this point, the Dolphins announced, I believe late last week, we didn't cover it, that they're out of the sweepstakes. And I actually believe that they're going to stick with Tua. I think Brian Flores and company, they're, convinced that Tua is their guy. And they're just like, they just pulled out and understanding, whatever they offer, the Jets can just say, okay, yeah, Miami has the 3 pick. We have the number 2 pick. So, hey, if Lawrence falls there, he's your guy, or you can have Wilson, who many people are gassing up to even be better than Lawrence. We'll see.
Well,
but with this, with the Watson stuff, it's like, okay, where else is he going to go? Because we had earlier in the week, there was a report, I believe, on Bleacher saying that Carolina may, offer Christian McCaffrey. But if the Texans don't want anybody other than a quarterback of their choosing, where else is Watson going? He's going to be a Jet. I'm back on the full Watson train. I jumped off last week. I was thinking, yeah, you know what? Probably Carolina. I'm full on board again.
I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna respond to that point you made where teams have Zach Wilson as the best quarterback in the draft, dude. If Zach Wilson is on the number 1 spot for the Jacksonville Jaguars and Trevor Lawrence falls to number 2 and the Jets trade number 2 to Houston for Deshaun Watson, I am probably, and this is no joke, head diving right off the roof.
Are you serious?
I am 100% serious.
So you'd rather have the uncertainty than the known quantity.
I would rather have the young
Watson
quarterback prospect.
Come on.
The young quarterback prospect who is the highest rated quarterback prospect to come out of college since Andrew Luck. We've seen 3 years of Trevor Lawrence and what he can do.
We've seen just watched years of Watson.
We've seen his pro day with what he can do. The kid's got an arm. He's accurate. He can scramble. He's
You're describing Deshaun Watson.
Right, but give me Deshaun Watson on a rookie deal. Bam.
But you don't know that.
I don't, but I am going to take the word of scouts and coaches and analysts who've all watched tape, who 18 teams.
But here's the thing. We don't know. Game. We don't know. Obviously, we didn't know until the day of that there was rumblings that the Cleveland Browns, they may actually take Baker over Darnold.
We talked about this. Absolutely.
Yes.
But
so we don't know until all this is going to get situated by that. It's not going to be. We're not going to get to the draft. We're not going to get. We're still 2 months away.
Then. I get it.
Right. It's 2 months away. It's not going to be draft night. Watson is still a Texan. Do they make that's not going to happen. Watson, if the Texans don't move Watson by draft night, they're fucked because Watson will not play for them. I can't envision after everything that has gone on and them also getting like anything of substance in return. Every day they keep Watson, the value of him lessens. I made this comparison with Trent Williams with Washington last week, where they were stubborn. Nope, we're gonna keep you. Okay, and then they eventually didn't get what they originally were expecting to get in return because they shot themselves in the foot. It's like the player will just hold out, But you don't. I just pose that as a hypothetical with the Jets and Dolphins situation, but concerning Watson. Where else is he going for? At this, I've bought back in. I'm on the Watson train again.
He's got nowhere else to go but the Jets. But again, if I'm the Jets, I am just.
Would you trade number 2 overall, a first next year, one of the thirds this year because the Jets have 2, their second next year, and say Jonathan Franklin Myers? Would you do that deal for Watson?
No, because
come on,
no,
come on,
dude. I'm just looking at it as Zach Wilson.
He's a borderline top 5, maybe even a top 5 quarterback.
And I've said this before. He's a top 5 QB. He's great. I think the second overall pick is just too valuable. And again, if Zach Wilson, if the Jaguars are that team that have him at number 1, and they take Zach Wilson, and the Jets get Trevor Lawrence, and he falls to them, I'm just pulling the trigger on Trevor Lawrence. He's, as you just said, he's Deshaun Watson on a rookie deal.
But we have not seen him play at the NFL level. We know with Watson.
But the Jets have all this cap to surround him with a great offensive line, and they're going to get him a top wide receiver.
They could do that with Watson.
And I get it. But the cap hit is going to be there, and it's going to
you got to spend it.
It's going to hurt them in the end. I know you got to spend it, but I would rather just take the kid on the rookie deal. If Lawrence falls,
you're going to have to pay him more.
I mean,
in 4 years, and probably even less.
Listen. Teams are now winning Super Bowls on rookie deals. Look at what the Chiefs did with Pat Mahomes, and he fucking got him back there this year. I'm sorry.
That's lofty expectations.
I know. To
put in a rookie like that, where you can just get like Watson, who we know who he is with where he's been and what he's been surrounded with. One of the worst O-lines in the league his entire career. Granted, he had Hopkins the majority of his career. He's had some solid weapons at receiver. Obviously, Will Fuller in this past year. Brandon Cooks for a bit. No run game to speak of. No O-line. Defense pretty atrocious during his tenure in Houston. Now imagine that under a competent, which is pretty hilarious to say with the Jets, competent direction under Robert Saleh, who Watson likes, in a system that could fit around him, where they can still go after Joe Thuney or Brandon Sheriff, add Allen Robinson or Chris Godwin or whoever's the top receiver, and still add to this team through the draft. 2 firsts, a second, a third, and one of these, defensive linemen not named Quinnen Williams. I'm down for that. But, at this point, I'm not trading 3 firsts for Watson because I don't think the value's there. And you're wasting your picks. I would have probably said this, a month ago. Would say, yeah, 3 first-round picks, sure. The Jets need Watson. He's a franchise quarterback, blah, blah, blah. And especially not 4 first-round picks. That ship has sailed for Houston. But I think, Watson would immediately be the Jets' best quarterback in their franchise. This situation doesn't happen in the NFL. You accumulate picks to utilize in this dream scenario, like it's Madden, like it's franchise in Madden, where you can only dream of this occurring. I understand having a rookie deal and everything, but guess what? If Lawrence is as good as Watson, which you're hoping to be, you haven't seen him at the NFL level. I understand he's the best touted prospect since Luck and Peyton, blah blah blah. But you're going to have to pay Lawrence in 2 to 3 years if he lives up to that hype, more than Watson's getting paid currently. Watson just wants out of Houston. He's got his money. He's getting paid. You don't have to pay him again for another 5-6 years.
Well, I just, I don't know, dude. I won't be upset if they get Watson. I will be upset if Trevor Lawrence falls to 2 and he turns out to be a fucking star. That's just me.
But what about Zach Wilson? What if he turns out to be a star? Or Justin
That's
Fields?
great too. That's what I'm saying. Like that second pick is so fucking valuable. And really the
The Jets
The
hold all the
Jets can't
cards.
screw this up. Right, they can't screw this up either way. I would just be upset if one of those two quarterbacks immediately comes in and they're able to fucking dominate the league and okay, we got Deshaun Watson, great, but
Would you
here's
be
this guy on
upset
a
if
rookie deal.
Watson leads the Jets to a Super Bowl win within the next 3 years? I
No,
think
not at
that,
all.
yeah, at that point,
At that
all it
point,
is bringing a
it's
Super Bowl. It does
right.
not matter. I don't
I
care
just
if the Jets bring back Josh McCown, 45
I
years old, hobbling, and he leads us to a Super Bowl. I
I
want a Super
yearn
Bowl.
I yearn for consistency at the quarterback position. I get it. Watson will bring consistency to the quarterback position, but I would just rather a young rookie quarterback who they can mold and they can develop and they have him for fucking 15 years and
Uh,
they just have consistency and they don't need to address this every 3 fucking years. Again, I wouldn't be upset if we got Watson, but I would be very upset if Lawrence is at 2 and he turns out to be a phenom. That's just me.
so you want the Jets to stay put. If they get Wilson, you'd be I mean, honestly, I think I would be
I
happy either way, too.
Yeah, I would be more happy if they stayed put at 2 and they were able to get their Trevor Lawrence or Zach Wilson.
And
I
get an
just
additional
I
first for Darnold and have 3 firsts to work with this year.
right. I
Okay.
and I just think the ceiling on both of them are so high. I think Trevor Lawrence a little bit more than Wilson. But again, we've said this in the past about Darnold and I just think the Jets front office is in a position now where they understand, okay, we're bringing in a quarterback. We need to put coaching around him to help him develop, and we need talent around him to help him succeed. And no way is that any easier than drafting a quarterback, number 2 overall, and then you're able to bring in an Allen Robinson, and you're able to bring in a Joe Thuney, and you're able to surround him with playmakers to make his transition easier. Again, Deshaun Watson would be a great fit for the Jets. I wouldn't be upset if they got him, but I personally want the guy to come in at number 2, be able to mold him, develop him, and put a team around him to be able to compete for a title while he's still on his rookie deal. Again, we've seen it with the Chiefs where they did that with Mahomes. And we saw it with the Texans in the beginning of Watson's rookie deal, where he had the talent around him, and they were fucking phenomenal. And the same thing with the Rams that they did with Jared Goff,
And they had to pay him all. And look
they
what happened
yeah,
with Goff. And with
right,
Mahomes, actually, I was just thinking, he didn't get his. Yeah, he won the Super Bowl on his rookie deal, and then immediately got a 15-year, 100 or $400 million contract.
yeah, I know. But Mahomes, that's going to pay dividends for the Chiefs because they got back to the Super Bowl this year, and I think the Chiefs are the new dynasty in the AFC for years to come.
Oh, sir.
I think team players are going to want to take pay cuts to go play with them and Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. So I think they're going to be okay for the foreseeable future. But yeah, I am just ready for draft night or for something to happen so we don't have to talk about this again because it is what it
Something
is.
needs to happen with Darnold or Watson. The next domino has to fall. The initial one was, okay, I guess Matthew Stafford's getting traded, and 3 days later, he was traded.
Right.
Now, well, I guess the Eagles are moving on from Carson Wentz after all. And about a week later, they finally moved on from Wentz, or a week and a half later. We've been talking about it with Darnold. The Jets' recent mock that they posted to their official social media accounts, has them taking Zach Wilson at number 2 overall, teasing all the fans. The writing's on the wall. Donald will not be the quarterback. I think it's fair to say officially at this point. So he has to be the next domino to fall. So then we can discuss, break down what that deal looks like. We all expect, are hopeful, I guess, for a first round pick, but you know, we shall see. And
We shall see. Yes.
hopefully, with the Watson ordeal and the rumors can just like wrap up nicely. But moving on from that, let me just, there's not much else. This is the limbo time of the NFL offseason where, the Super Bowl is wrapped up. There's not much else to talk about. The official new league year doesn't start till March 17th, a little under a month away. So we thought of, all right, why don't we just bring up our top 3 favorite Jets quarterbacks, not named Joe Namath. That would be a bit too easy. Or best Jet quarterbacks, and then just, talk about them a bit. So, Paul, if you want to just start off and go from there.
Okay, so, and this is in no particular. Actually, you know what? This is in particular order. Number 1, Chad Pennington,
Okay.
quarterback from the University of Marshall, or Marshall University. 2000. Drafted in 2000 at 16th overall, Chad Pennington had a 9-year career with the green and white, who led the Jets to, what was it, 3 Super Bowl berths and,
Super Bowls. God, I
or,
wish.
yeah, you're on the fucking Super Bowl talk. Playoff berths, and he played pretty consistently for the Jets. And if it wasn't for his bum shoulder, I
Wasn't for the
honestly believe,
Giants in that preseason game.
yeah, if it wasn't for that bum shoulder, I think Chad Pennington would have been he would have been right up there with Joe Namath as best quarterbacks in Jets history. And I apologize, he was not with the team for 9 years. He was with them for 7. He played 2 years in Miami, so he's 10-year NFL career, and he won NFL Comeback Player of the Year twice in 2006 and 2008 after coming back from season-ending injuries, torn rotator cuffs. He at one point was the NFL all-time career leader in completion percentage at 66%, which is now second behind Drew Brees, who I think is at like a fucking, I think he's at like 69% or 68,
Mhm.
something like that. It's unbelievable. But looking back on those Chad Pennington years and looking at the teams that he was playing with, he had for a little bit Santana Moss and Lavernius Coles and Curtis Martin, who could forget him at running back, and the fucking offensive line that they had in front of them. The Jets were poised for big years, those mid to early 2000s, but unfortunately, it didn't pan out due to injuries and inconsistent play sometimes. But Chad Pennington will go down as a fan favorite for me for pretty much, I guess, the rest of my life until we find maybe 3 more quarterbacks that are better than him.
Well,
Or have had more of an impact. I shouldn't say better than him. Have had more of an impact on the Jets.
I would agree with you there. In terms of favorite and actually best. Chad Pennington, as you pointed out, with his bum shoulder, but at times, especially in that playoff game, he had that bomb to, I believe Santana Moss in that wild card game against the Chargers in
Yeah.
'04. He a 50-yard bomb right on the money. You wouldn't expect it from Chad
And
Pennington of all quarterbacks.
and you know what? I'm gonna take back what I said about his bum shoulder. Yes, he had a bad shoulder, but in New York, it just seemed like Brian Schottenheimer was just like, all right, when I give you the green light to throw downfield, you will throw downfield. Chad Pennington, I guess you could say, was the godfather of the dink and dunk um, quarterback style. However, when
He,
he
he
went to
inspired
Miami,
Brady and Belichick.
I guess so. But when he went down to Miami, there was, he was fucking launching the thing 60 yards, no problem. So I don't know how much of it was him actually playing and recovering from that shoulder, or how much of it was from the coaching staff. But Chad Pennington was the man, and it's sad because during his playing career, I was obviously a younger kid,
Hmm.
and I wouldn't really know much about like injuries or like coaching staff. I just thought it was the player, and I was like, oh my god, why did the Jets have him? Putting Kellen Clapp, but like you look back on his career, he was a very very underrated quarterback, and if it wasn't for his injuries, he would have been able to have a nice long career. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just it's insane. He only played 10 years, but yeah. I wish he would come back as a quarterback coach in some capacity, if not with the Jets, somewhere in the league, because a 66% passing completing rating is unheard of. Second all time, again behind Drew Brees, and
His 2002
he
season.
was
I mean, the
so
Jets were
fucking accurate.
they started 1-5 that year. And it was just looking like going nowhere, and he led the team back, and eventually they won the AFC East that year, and then beat up on the Colts in the wild card home playoff game.
41-0.
Yeah, and that was then like this is pre Schottenheimer days. Like this was like Paul Hackett, I believe. Like just even worse, if you can imagine. So in terms of offensive imagination with play calls and whatnot, but like I said, like completion percentage, it speaks for itself. It's just a shame, another potentially great player. He was a good player, but potentially great player robbed with injuries. Like seeing like what he could have been if he didn't have like all those like he missed games in '03, missed games in '04, and the Jets had to start Quincy Carter. It was not good. In '05, he missed basically the
Yeah,
entire season.
yeah. Holy shit.
'07 was another rough year, and that's what led the Jets to get Brett Favre. And I would say Chad is in my top three as well. But a quarterback, I'll save him because I don't think we'll share that favorite one. But you may with this one would be Vinny Testaverde, the quarterback right before Chad Pennington came to the Jets in '98. Flourished under Bill Parcells, was a Pro Bowler in '98, helped lead the Jets to their AFC East division win, where they beat up on the Jaguars in the home playoff game, divisional round, and you know, consummate professional. That's I would say, the guys like Testaverde and Curtis Martin and Winkerbet, for me, made me a Jet fan because they always were like
Bunch of blue collar guys playing hard hitting style. Yeah.
exactly like they were the antithesis of the Giants, who were always like they were like the snobby
Right.
organization, like growing up, like oh we're better, and it's like no, these guys, hard working, hard nosed, just played football, maybe soft spoken, just they're just all about the game, and that's what I liked about the Jets growing up. That's what I liked about Vinny. It's just Chad. They drafted Chad in 2000, so Vinny's days were numbered, and that eventually came to an end in '02. Stuck around till '03, and then when the Jets needed an emergency call, after the Jets lost Pennington, I believe Brooks Bollinger as well. Current Cardinals head coach Cliff Kingsbury got a snap or two in that '05 season. Dreadful year. Curtis Martin last year with the Jets. Wanker Betts last year with the Jets due to injuries. He had a concussion, I believe against the Chargers, and they called Vinny off the couch, and he came in and did his best. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Vinny Testaverde with the Jets faced the New England Patriots, led by Doug Flutie, the two oldest quarterbacks to go, to face each other at the time, in the last Monday night game on ABC that year. So that was pretty special to see. Of course, the Jets lost because they were absolutely dreadful that year, finished 4-12. But Vinny, he had plenty of moments with the Jets over the course, of course, the Monday Night Miracle, one of the most cherished Jet games, regular season Jet games in history. So, like I said, and as you mentioned, a blue collar guy, always a fan of Vinny
Well,
through
do you
and
want to
through.
hear something fucking disgusting?
What's
So
that?
Testaverde comes into New York in '98,
Mm-hmm.
and he throws 29 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. At the time, was the Jets franchise record for most passing touchdowns in a season, only to be
uh,
eclipsed. Oh,
Fitzpatrick.
yeah, Ryan
Fitzmagic.
Fitzpatrick. I
He
think
had
he
like
had
33.
31.
Mm.
I can fact check you on that. I think he was at 31. We might have to split the difference at 32.
That's not good. That's not good that's not
No,
a good
but
look for the franchise.
no, no. It's how bad that they've been at. You know, with talent that they had, they have failed to develop or just failed to draft. So,
Mhm.
uh, to make us both look like fools, the record was eclipsed by Ryan Fitzpatrick in 2015 with 31 touchdowns,
Okay.
15 interceptions. He threw for 3,905 yards, which is the most in his career.
Amazing.
He threw
Brandon Marshall and
for
Eric Decker. What a duo that year.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that was it.
And
Outside of those two,
that's it.
I don't I don't remember who was who was the slot guy that year. It couldn't have been
um,
it couldn't have been Jared
Curly.
McCautry. He was
Curly.
Jeremy Curley, that fucking bum.
Listen, I don't understand your irrational disdain for
he's
Jeremy
like
Curley
he's like
when
Brett
he was.
Gardner. I don't want to hear it. Brett
But
Gardner's fucking terrible.
Curley was drafted in like the fourth round to
Yeah, I
essentially
don't want to
replace
hear it.
Cotchery,
I
and
don't
he
want to
did
hear it.
just that. He's a fine
He's a
receiver,
bum. He was
not the best punt returner,
terrible,
obviously.
terrible returner. Terrible.
That's not his problem that the special
Yes, it
team
is.
coach at
It's
the
his
time
problem.
threw him out there.
It's his problem.
It's his fault.
Imagine catching a ball and running 30 yards to the sideline and then up for 2 yard gain. Yeah. Fuck
That's
Curly.
not his job. He's a
Fuck him.
receiver.
Fuck him.
Yeah, okay.
Fuck him.
Well, who's your quarterback? Because I got Chad and Vinny, and you have Chad, and who else?
This is a horrible list. This is a horrible thing. But I was gonna go with Vinny Testaverde as well. And I swear to God,
Okay.
Brian, if your third quarterback happens to be my third quarterback, we're just not gonna do this anymore.
We're just gonna give up.
All right, so let's hear your third quarterback.
I think this may shock you. I don't know. Because I think you're thinking that I'm thinking Brett Favre, but I'm not
I
going with
think
Favre.
you're thinking Mark Sanchez.
Absolutely not.
Oh wow.
My guy, who again,
Oh,
I like the players who are a
he's a
consummate
Ken
professional.
O'Brien.
No,
Ken
no.
O'Brien.
Who are the consummate professionals. This is why my favorite non-Jet player is Larry Fitzgerald. Soft-spoken, handles his business, all about the game of football. This
Okay.
guy, he's been around the league forever. It's Josh McCown.
Wow.
I love Josh McCown.
Josh.
Uncle Josh, the man, the myth, the legend, current Houston Texan. Maybe they're starting quarterback for 2021. We'll see. Been in the league since 2002. Signed a one-year deal with the Jets in 2017 because the Jets were going in with Christian Hackenberg and Bryce Petty. And obviously that didn't work out. So McCown was named the starter. And he played pretty well under Todd Bowles. The Jets, at that point, they had the duo of Jermaine Kearse and Robbie Anderson, and McCown was chefing at certain points.
Absolutely. Well, him and that Robbie Anderson connection. Remember that game we went to against the Carolina Panthers where it ended up being a shootout?
Yes.
We were on the 10-yard line and I won't forget that play. Shotgun formation, he rolls out left and he's Robbie Anderson's gone. He points downfield, launches the fucking ball 50 yards right into Anderson's hands.
And you know what's hilarious? McCown, like all year and everything, and even previous years, it's like, McCown doesn't have the arm. He was launching them all season.
Yeah,
he was just winging it. Like, I was like, where is this Josh McCown?
Yeah,
and
I know.
He ended up throwing for nearly 3,000 yards, 18 touchdowns, 9 picks. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. Like, he's always been that backup quarterback around the league, like one of the better backups that you can count on in like a short spot. Oh, well, damn, we're missing our starting quarterback. Like, I remember the Bears when they played the Cowboys on prime time, I think Monday night or Thursday night, and like one of the most cold games ever. And Jay Cutler was out. McCown get in there, and he led the Bears, and they beat up on Dallas, I believe. And to me, McCown, and then coming back for a second year and tutoring Sam Darnold and being that guidance to him. And when he needed to come in and step in, Darnold was injured for a few weeks. He did what he needed to do. And then Darnold, seeing that on the bench, taking a step back, came back and played, up there with Aaron Rodgers and played really well against Houston in that Saturday night game, I believe. To
I
me, McCown, yeah, he's my third favorite Jet quarterback.
I really like that pick. And I'm gonna come out and say that I think Josh McCown, if given the opportunity, would have been. I think he would have been a decent NFL starter. You look at the situations that he came into. Drafted to Arizona in 2002. He played 2 games. Again, 2003, he played in 8, started 3. 2004, he played in 14 games and started 13. Now, this is third year in the league. He had a 57% completion rating, 2,500 yards, 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. But he definitely was able to make some plays that was able to help extend drives and whatnot and put Arizona in winning positions. So again,
Right.
2005, he went back to the backup role. He didn't get another really consistent chance as a starter until 2007 with Oakland, but those Oakland teams were absolutely abysmal to begin with. But
Yeah. So I'm assuming that McCown is not your third pick
He
for quarterback.
he is not, but I'm
Okay.
really glad that you brought him up because he really for that one year he was like the Ryan Fitzpatrick of
He, he
2017.
deserves the recognition and appreciation.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah. I mean, yeah, no, that's really all I gotta say about Josh McCown. So number 3, and it's probably gonna sound like
Let me take a guess.
bad. Go ahead, take a guess.
Um, it can't be Kellen Clemens.
Who?
It's not Kellen Clemens, is it?
Oh no. And hey, I'll tell you what, in my NFL head coach file, he's fucking chefing it up right now.
That's good to hear.
Dude, he's leading. We're in week 8 and he's leading the league in touchdown passes with 21.
Well,
Yeah, he's fucking chefing, dude.
That's surprising.
Go
Hmm.
ahead. It's not Kellen Clemens.
Hmm. I'm trying to think through the years, the many of Jets start. See, because it can't be. You can't like. I mean, I would love to hear the case, but you can't say like, oh, Matt Sims who started 2 games or Greg
Oh
McElroy.
no, yeah, no. They at the
Um.
time I was right. Do you remember in high school when I had that Mark Sanchez jersey?
Yeah.
And then Greg McElroy came in, and I put the duct tape over it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He's the future.
walking around with the fucking duct tape jersey.
I have no idea. Unless you're gonna pick Chino. Let me hear it.
It is the one, the only Mark Sanchez.
Oh Jesus!
Oh come on, dude!
Are
Again,
you
come
serious?
on. Yes,
Oh,
yes.
Manhattan
Mark
Mark, the
Sanchez.
Sanchez.
The Jets moved up to number 5 to grab Mr. Sanchez. Mark Sanchez led the Jets to 2 AFC title games back to back.
He led him, sure. He led him all right. He handed off to Sean Green and Thomas Jones and LT.
Please don't disrespect the greatest.
I'm just the
Top 5
who has
quarterback the Jets have ever had.
a better road playoff percentage than Tom Brady. You're right. No,
Tom
you're right.
Brady. Again, he was another guy who they brought in to be the face of the franchise. And I remember with this pick, when they traded up to get him, I was ecstatic. And that
I was
first
trepidatious inside of
what's
a
that?
Chili's. I was like, because I wasn't it a draft day deal? It wasn't
It was a draft day deal when
Yeah.
Cleveland was on the clock, and then
Jets traded a few picks. I believe safety Abram Elam was
yes,
part of that deal. They
he
sent.
was. And then Mark Sanchez comes up off the board, and I'm like, holy fuck, we got our quarterback. That's it.
Yep.
And for a while there, he the first few preseason games he was launching it downfield, and he had the pocket presence, and
I
he
remember
had some success.
it was sorry to cut you off, but like
No,
it
you're
was
good.
that first preseason game. I forget who was
They're playing
against,
the
but
Rams.
and it like everyone was like with every throw, people were like hyping, "Oh my goodness!"
Yeah.
Oh, because it was essentially the first pick that the Jets have, in terms of first round quarterback, in 9 or 10 seasons since Pennington.
Yeah.
And you knew he was. It's like they're not going to go with. Was Clemens still the backup at that point,
He
or
was.
was it Mark? No, was it Mark Brunell initially, or?
No, Mark Brunell, I think, was around 2011.
Oh, well. So
I'm
yeah,
pretty
so
sure.
so like it was him. It was Sanchez is the guy, so he's gonna we're throwing him right in, and the first game I believe was at Houston in 2009, his rookie
Yes,
season, and
yes, 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 yes.
he played adequately, and you were thinking like I was thinking like maybe the Jets got him, maybe the Jets got the franchise, and what a wild trip it would end up being.
Well, and what's crazy is he started that the Jets started they started the season I think 3-0, and they went into Week 4 against New Orleans, and it was right down to the wire. It was that Monday night game, and essentially the Jets had New Orleans on their heels. It was like 3rd and 4 on the like New Orleans' own 35, and they couldn't run the ball all night, and it was an off night for Drew Brees, and it was Chris Jenkins who fucking he fell for the hard snap, and that essentially ended the game. It dropped him to 3-1. Um, and I think this his rookie season. However, the Jets were 9-7
hmm
that and they made the playoffs because it was the first time in NFL history that a team made the playoffs after going on two separate 3-game losing streaks. And we all know the story. They beat Cincinnati in Week
Twice
17.
back to
They
back.
they yeah they shut them out in Week 17, 37-0, and then they
Final
went
game at
to
Giant Stadium.
yeah, final game, and then they go into Cincinnati, beat them 24-14. The second game that postseason was, I
San
think it
Diego.
was San Diego, where they were down by 10 at the half. They came back, and Darrell Revis and that secondary absolutely saved that game for them.
Yeah.
Um, and then, of course, we all know what happened
They stayed they shouldn't have been
the
there,
Colts.
but they
Yeah,
hung in there with Indy.
yeah, and then well, and that's the thing. They had the lead at halftime. They were up 11, and then they ended up losing 30-17, and it was like 1998 all over again, where the Jets were up at half, I think by 10 to Denver, and they just
And
took their
couldn't
foot
hold
off the
on.
gas.
Yeah.
And then the following season, it was a little bit more of the same, although I think they went 11-5, and
Yep.
then that just the murderer's row of lineups they played in the playoffs. They start out with Indianapolis. They beat them on a walk-off field goal, and then they go up against New England. They beat them at home at New England, 28-14. And Sanchez looked like a fucking phenom. And then they got behind early against Pittsburgh. They had a chance, but Sanchez, instead of running straight, he saw Palamalu as Pat
Palamu.
as Pat McAfee calls him, Troy Palamalu.
Okay.
Troy Polamalu,
Yeah.
and he decided to just, if he had just gone straight, there's a first down, and who knows what would have happened. But then after that, the Jets just fucking fell flat on their face, and he had his fair share of injuries as well. He had the boneheaded decision of Rex Ryan in a third meaningless preseason game against the Giants. He tore his rotator cuff, and
It's just
that was it.
a
Yeah,
amateur decision in the same vein as Adam Gase starting Avery Williamson in the third quarter of preseason game and
yeah,
getting hurt. It just unprofessional and inexcusable.
yeah,
But I think that 2010 season, where they did go 11-5, as you mentioned, there were some low points. Like getting embarrassed by the Patriots, who utilized ex-Jet Danny Woodhead in every which way and got pummeled by like 45-3 or something. But I think what
that's
was
a
it like
Thanksgiving game.
3 games in a row? I know the Thanksgiving game was 2012, but they 3 games in a row, I think. I believe the first one was Detroit, won in overtime. Cleveland, won in overtime. Houston was that last, minute drive where they had, Sanchez bombed it out to Braylon Edwards for like 40 yards or something, and then found Santonio Holmes in like the corner of the
Yeah.
end zone, and the whole stadium is going crazy, and it's just like, moments like that, like you can appreciate, like
Well,
with Sanchez and everything.
and the week before that, when they were playing Cleveland, it was his first 300-yard performance. And what was happening was it went to overtime, as you said, and it was, both teams just couldn't score to save their life. And it was the Jets had the ball at like 50 seconds to go. They're at midfield, and I think they had a timeout left with like 10 seconds left to go in the game. So Sanchez threw like a 15-yard slant to Braylon Edwards, who fucking broke it off and rushed into the end zone for the game-winning score. And I remember watching that game, and I was just like, "Oh my god, get into field goal range!" And I'm looking, I'm like, "Okay, go, 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 go! Oh, oh my god!"
That's the
And
exact, yeah.
my dad's like, "What the fuck? What happened? What happened?" Just one walk-off touchdown. All right, sit down. Dinner's ready. All right.
That's the exact reaction. It's like in that situation of your team, it's like, all right, just get into field goal. Okay, go score. Fuck it. Fuck what I said. Just go score the touchdown.
But yeah, Sanchez, and again, looking back on it, he was a consummate professional too. He took his lumps from the media, and
Hmm.
it is what it is. But I'll always look back on Mark Sanchez with fond memories, and the same
Always have his
with
jersey.
yes, and I looked it up. That was a bootleg jersey.
Really?
And I'll give you the L that I took with that jersey. So I remember the kid's name who gave it to me. I'll tell you off air.
Okay.
And I remember what I was wearing to school that day. I was wearing like this gray like thermal sweatshirt. Nothing. I didn't have a t-shirt on underneath. So he gave me the jersey. So I went to the bathroom and I took the thermal off and I put the jersey on. And I
Uh,
didn't realize until I got home, but like the little holes in the jerseys back then,
yeah.
like, but they were just a tiny bit bigger. So if you stared at me long enough, you could like see
Like
I was
mesh.
like shirtless underneath, and I had no
Oh.
clue. And the best part about that jersey was the Sanchez nameplate was upside down and backwards. So I had my mom as I wore it like that all day to school,
Oh
and
my god.
my mom, I had her unstitch it and put it back on the right way. I think I still have the jersey somewhere. It's
That's
somewhere in my
that needs to be
dresser.
framed. I mean, I think next week's episode we just gotta like break down our jersey history.
Yeah,
Just Jet jerseys,
absolutely.
because I have a
Yeah,
bunch of other
I have a bunch of them as
stupid
well.
football team. I have like New York Hitmen and whatever, but just strictly Jet jerseys, and
Yeah,
just break down a
absolutely.
little story about about a few of them. We like 4 or 5, and just background of that, because I think that'd be interesting for
Yeah,
anybody tuning
absolutely.
in.
I mean, like you said, this is the off season of the off season. Nothing's really going
Yeah,
on. So,
yeah. So,
but
but
I guess
I think
that's
that
it
wraps
then.
it up.
So I guess for Brian, I'm Paul. You can follow us on Twitter at Jets Flight Path. Again, we will be back here next Friday with another Jets Flight Path, where again we'll talk about our past jersey purchases and do we regret buying past jersey purchases
Yes.
and maybe Deshaun Watson gets traded during the week. Who
Maybe Sam
knows?
Darnold
But
gets traded.
maybe Sam Darnold. So we'll be back next week, and for both of us, we are tuning out.